All right, everyone. Awesome. Thank you to those that threw in some wins in there. So Matt Savage got 2 new listings and an under contract with a buyer. And Max with a good mindset, which is awesome. Heather Pappas, a new listing and a buyer under contract yesterday. Good job, Heather. And Rebecca, yep, I'll agree with you. TMI, but grateful for indoor plumbing. So thanks, Rebecca. All right. Well, here's what we are. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Is I want to talk to you today about some things to keep in mind as you are making your calls, and in particular, calling people that you don't know. So as you are making calls around to either just listed, just sold, to for sale by owners, to expireds, or outdoor knocking, or calling an internet lead, any of those type of things. I want to talk in terms of some points that you should keep in mind as you make those phone calls. Now, think of it as the envelope that is going to be surrounding what we're going to talk about today. The envelope of that is really about this. And I think it was Thoreau that said this. I might be wrong. It might not have been Thoreau, but I think it was, that said, who you are speaks so loudly that people can't hear what you're saying. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through and we talk about these points today, that who you are as a person, it speaks so loudly that people can't hear what it is you're saying. In fact, think of it this way. Another thing that I had heard, and I'm gone blank on the guy's name right now. He was from the Caribbean and he was a preacher. He died in a plane crash, and I'm going blank on his name. I was hoping that would bring it to me. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Here's what he said. Do not seek success. Seek to become a person of value. So do not seek success. Seek to become a person of value. See, I love that statement because it fits in so perfectly with who we are at Everest, where really what Everest is about is this personal development company that happens to sell real estate along the way. And if you will seek to become a person of value, which meaning what Jim Rohn says is you should be working harder on yourself than you even do at your own job. And if you will work harder on who you become to seek to become that person of value. See, we pay for things of value. Things that have become valuable, we will pay for it. So you need to seek to become valuable. Now, with that in mind, let's go through and talk about, I wrote down some points, and I'm going to give you several points. We'll see how many. I'm not going to tell you how many I have, because if we don't get through all of them, that way the analyticals out there won't be saying, well, wait, what is point number X or Y? So I'm going to give you a number of points, and we'll see how many of those we get through. We may or may not get through all of them, but I'm going to give you some points. So in terms of you making your phone calls, and specifically people that you do not know as you get them on the phone. So here's the first one. The first point of this is be honest, be transparent, and straightforward as you are making those phone calls. So here's why I say that. Keep in mind that what really your job as an agent, as you are getting people on the phone, your primary objective should be to set an appointment, is what your primary objective of that phone call is. So don't lose sight of your primary objective is to set an appointment. Well, guess what the primary objective of the person who is on the phone call with you? Their primary objective is to get you off the phone. So it's almost like a duel between you of being able to set an appointment, them being able to get off the phone before you set the appointment. So who is going to be better at their job at either getting off the phone for them or setting the appointment for you? Now, part of that, so that's why I say be honest, be transparent, be straightforward. See, sometimes what happens is I notice that agents will get on the phone and they start to just try to beat around the bush. And yes, we want to build some connection and rapport, but sometimes they take that to the point where the person on the other end of the phone is like, what's the point of this phone call? And now they want to just get off. So you need to be straightforward and transparent, meaning letting them know what you are calling for. And I'll bring this back up again on another point, but just keep in mind, their goal is to get off the phone. Your goal is to set an appointment. Who is going to be better at their job? So that's number one. Be transparent, honest, straightforward as you're making your calls. Number two,
The second thing that we want to make sure we're doing as you are making calls is be interesting and be interested. So you need to be interesting as you're making your calls, but you also need to be interested. So how you become interesting to the person that you're making the call with, the way you become an interesting person to them is by you being interested in them. Now, how do we get that to take place? Through asking questions. As you ask them questions that are about them, not about you, but as you ask them questions that are about them, they then feel like you are interested in them. And the more interested you are in them, the more interesting they think that you are. So make sure that you are taking time to be interested and to be interesting by being interested. Now, the other thing with that, as part of being interesting with them, is we want to make sure we are creating some value on those phone calls. See, one of the things that I did for you guys right at the very start of this, which I think today, as you make your phone calls, one of the things to incorporate into that is, did you know? See, as you say, did you know, will make them interested in what you have to say. Did you know that interest rates today for an FHA loan are at 2.25%? I don't know that I have ever seen that. I don't think, I mean, to my knowledge, they have never been that low. And maybe hundreds of years ago, who knows? But I don't think interest rates have been that low at all. So use that in your prospecting today. Did you know that an FHA interest rate, you could get 2.25%, especially as you come across people who say, we were just curious, we're just kind of seeing what's out there, we're not sure. Well, hey, did you know that interest rates hit 2.25% today? What that means for you is, see, and turn it into what it would do for them. What's the benefit to them as you do that? So make sure that you are being interesting by being interested in them and what they are doing. Okay, next, number 3, you need to believe that you can convert to an appointment, that you can get an appointment on every single call that you make. You have to believe. See, George talked yesterday about what are your beliefs. So you've got to believe that you can set an appointment on every single call. You're probably not going to, in fact, more than likely you're not going to on every call, but keep in mind, you've got to believe it. It's too many times what happens is this: we get on the phone and we start making phone calls, and as we're making the phone calls, we get into this, I don't know what word to use, maybe a funk or whatever. We get so used to this pattern of them saying no and being rejected and those type of things that all of a sudden that becomes our expectation, is that we're going to get rejected, when in reality, we need to have that expectation that we are going to convert every single phone call that you're on. And I just have this belief for me that if you can connect with them and create value, if you can create value for the people on the call, you will be able to get an appointment. See, for me, every time you don't get an appointment, it is because you either didn't connect or you didn't create value. If you create value, you will set an appointment. So after every call, stop and evaluate how you did. What did you do? Now, here's the other thing with this. Keep in mind on these calls as you're making them that it is typically going to take between 5 and 12 times of you calling someone in order for you to get that appointment. It is not going to be uncommon that we're going to have to do that lead follow-up where we are following up with them. And you're typically probably going to have to talk to them 5 to 12 times. Now, about a year ago, maybe even longer than that now, I lose track of time, but I was talking to, and I believe it was Cody Emery, one of the great agents here in the Union Park office, and Cody Emery had just listed it for sale by owner. And in talking to him, he said, you know what's interesting about this? I had to call this person. I talked to them 33 times before he set the appointment. 33 times he followed up with that person before he got the appointment. But here's the key. Every single phone call that he made, every call, he expected to set an appointment on that phone call. So don't go into the calls thinking, oh, well, I'm just touching base with them. No, the purpose of a lead follow-up is to set an appointment with them on that call. So keep that mindset as you are making your calls, that it is typically going to take 5 to 12 contacts, but My expectation is I will set an appointment on this call. In fact, that would be a great affirmation before you pick up the phone to dial the phone number every single time is I will set an appointment on this call. It reminds me, actually, if I go back to early on in my career, I was sitting in a cubicle right outside of my office manager's office, and he had a recruit in his office. Well, there was this half wall between his office and where my cubicle was. So there was a wall that was just, and when I say half wall, it's probably more of a 3/4, but it was just tall enough that I couldn't see over it. But I heard him talking to the recruit. I was on the phone making my phone calls. He walked out of his office and they were standing at his doorway talking. And I heard the manager say to him, let's just listen to Russ make this phone call. Well, I remember when I heard that thinking, oh, I have got to get an appointment on this phone call because I knew someone was listening to me. So I got on the phone and let me tell you, I pushed more. And when I say pushed, I was not pushy, but I asked for the appointment more times on that call than I probably had any of the other calls I had made that entire day. And why? Because I knew I had my manager listening and I knew there was a recruit there. And for me, I was like, I wanted to look good. I wanted to show, look how good I am on the phone. Now, isn't it interesting? Why don't we do that every single phone call that we make? Why are we not saying, look, I got to show how good I am to the person on the other end of the phone that, look, I can set an appointment. And if you will do that so that every single phone call that you're making, you're saying, I will set an appointment. So you got to have that expectation and that belief. All right, next, number 4. So the fourth one that I've got for you is as you are on the calls, keep in mind that what you are doing is part of what you are doing on this phone call is looking for problems. So your job in these phone calls is to become a solution finder. See, they have some issues or problems that they aren't aware of. And who knows what that could be? It could be as simple as they just don't know the process. They don't realize how important it is that they have one agent who is going to look out for them. They don't know that if they would have you come out, you would net them more money on the sale of their home than selling it for sale by owner. See, they believe that for sale by owner believes the reason that they are selling the home for sale by owner is because they're going to save a 6% commission or a 5 or a whatever percent commission, 7. But we know from the studies that were done by the National Association of Realtors, they do this study every single year. And if you want a copy of it, shoot me an email and I'll get it to you. But they do this every year. 2019, the difference between using an agent or selling the home on their own, the median sales price, the difference of it is about 12%. So what that means is every time a for sale by owner thinks they're going to try to save 6%, it's actually costing them 12. So they might save 6, but in the end, it actually ends up costing them 6 is what the median takes place with that. So just keep that in mind that your job is to be the problem solver, that as you're on the phone with them, what you want to be doing is saying, okay, I understand that you want to save the 6%, but did you know that by using an agent, there are strategies and techniques that I can use that will actually end up netting you more money. See, because yes, they get so focused on the 6%, they don't worry and they lose track of being able to negotiate. I remember one night staying up, I was sick, I couldn't sleep. I had gotten up and would turn on this infomercial. This is about 10 years ago. I turned on this infomercial and they were talking about how to go and buy properties at a discount. And no, I'm not kidding you. One of the strategies that they recommended for this is go find a for sale by owner, offer them the price that they're asking, and then here's how you go back after you get it under contract and nickel and dime them to get the price to keep coming down lower and lower and lower. See, a lot of times they don't understand what they can or can say no to in terms of repairs. So part of what our job is to help them find the solutions that we can be able to help them net more money. So that's number 4, is identify and become a problem solver on your phone calls. Find out what their problems are and then let them know you are the solution to the problems that they are up against. All right, next one. And this one actually is very important. I'm surprised at how many times people don't follow this one. And the next one I wrote down was be respectful, be enthusiastic, and be memorable. See, sometimes people become memorable because they're a jerk on the phone. They aren't kind to the people as they're talking. So that's why I put down be respectful first. See, we want to be memorable, and part of how we're going to be memorable is by being enthusiastic on the phone. People are attracted to energy. If you have energy in your phone call, they will be attracted to that, which will make you memorable. But at the same time, be respectful. Too many times people get on the phone and they are not respectful. So pay attention to the tonality, the way that you are saying things, especially back to, again, a for sale by owner or even an internet lead, buyer or seller, doesn't matter. But don't take the approach with a for sale by owner of like, you're an idiot for trying to do this on your own. If that is the tonality that comes across, you're not going to win friends. In fact, if that's the case, you need to go read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because we don't want to be offensive to the people to be memorable. We want to be respectful, enthusiastic, which will then make us be memorable. Because remember, you're going to have to probably talk to them 5 to 12 times typically to get that transaction converted. If you are only getting deals on the first phone call, you're missing out on business because you're not doing that 5 to 12 follow-up on contacting them. So be enthusiastic and make sure that you are interesting. The other piece of this, of being memorable, use sound bites. Sound bites is a 10 to a 30-second commercial that you want to use as you are making your phone calls. So you're going to spend 10 to 30 seconds just telling them something like this. You're going to say something like, you know what, I was working with a client just last month or just last week or the other day or whatever, who was in the exact same scenario that you're in, and this is what happened as a result. So let them know you've got a soundbite, you've got somebody else that you have worked with who is very similar to where they are, and letting them know you understand how to do it. So make sure you're incorporating sound bites. And if you don't have any sound bites, borrow some from the agent sitting next to you or an agent down the hall. Go talk to your broker or your manager and just say, give me some good sound bites that I could use. But you want to make sure you're using sound bites of telling people, look, here is someone who was in the similar situation, and here's how much money they ended up saving on the property that I helped them purchase. Or so-and-so, this for sale by owner who was in the same scenario of you, needed to net more money. We listed their home for more than what they were trying to sell it for. And on this one, I always come back to a guy by the name of Russ, which I probably just remember his name because it's Russ, but he was down in our St. George office. He would go out and knock on doors for the expireds. Well, he found one that was actually Larry King's home. So the Larry King, the interviewer, he found his home, saw that it was an expired listing. He went to knock on the door. They weren't there. Sent, if I remember right, and June, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think he sent a letter to the address, which then got forwarded to Larry King's assistant, who then contacted him to say, because he said, look, I found some problems on the way your property was marketed. I think we could sell it for more. So now keep in mind, usually we assume an expired listing expired because it was overpriced. In this scenario, and I don't remember what the issue was, but he noticed something on the MLS that was wrong information, put it back on the market with the correct information, and sold it for more than what that home had initially tried to sell for. See, that's a great soundbite to be able to use, is, hey, I've had clients, and so you can use that now. We, meaning Century 21, have had clients whose homes expired that we actually went and listed it for more money and was able to get it sold. Now, that's not always going to be the case, but just keep in mind that those are some of the scenarios of things of that's how you want to be using sound bites in your phone calls. All right, next, I think it's number 6, and that is use a script. Whether you like scripts or not, you are using a script. It is amazing to me how, and I will hear an agent say, I hate scripts, I don't want to use a script. Then they pick up the phone and they say word for word on every single phone call that they make. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's a script. Now, the question is, how good is your script? See, the idea of a script, the reason why scripts are so important is they are designed to take everything to a point. And that point is of setting an appointment. That is the whole purpose. A script is designed to take you in a straight line to setting an appointment. And too many times we use scripts that go all over the place. And then, as I said in the beginning, their job is to get off the phone. Your job is to set an appointment. If your script is taking you all over the place, winding around, they're going to get off the phone before you set the appointment. So take a look at what you're saying. Even if, and again, if you're the person who says, I hate scripts, record a prospecting session. And then at the end, go back and listen and figure out what your script really is. And then look at it and say, is it designed to get me to an appointment? Because if it is, great, keep using it. If it's not, you might want to take a look at a different script to see if it can get you to appointments. All right, next one, last one. So I am going to give you all of them. So there were 7 points that I had written down. So I'm going to give you all 7 of them. And the last one is this: close. You have got to ask for the appointment on every single phone call, and typically going to have to ask a minimum of 3 times, sometimes up to 5 times in order for you to set an appointment. So make sure as you're prospecting that you are closing. Now, I have a belief there are only 5 ways in the English language that you can ask for an appointment. And they are what time, which time, how soon, when, and where. And I'll say those again so that you can get them as I see a few people writing them down. But there's only 5 ways to ask for an appointment: what time, which time, how soon, when, and where. If you say, can we get together? You're not asking for an appointment. If you say, is there a time we can get together? It's not asking for an appointment. If you say, why don't we get together? That one's the worst one. See, if I asked every one of you, why don't you give me money? You would just tell me why you're not going to give me money. You wouldn't give me money if I said, why don't you give me money? You would tell me why you weren't going to. Guess what happens if you say to somebody, why don't we get together? They tell you the reason you're not going to get together. They don't give you an appointment. They tell you why you're not going to get an appointment. So there's only 5 ways: what time, which time, how soon, when, and where. Now, keep in mind, when we say to somebody what works better, afternoons or evenings, that is just a variation of which time works better, afternoons or evenings. See, what time, which time, how soon, when, and where. Those are the only 5 ways in the English language that you can ask for an appointment. So make sure at the end of every phone call, or throughout the phone call, I should say, that you are asking for an appointment over and over and over again. All right. If you will do these things, I will promise you, you will see more success. So my challenge for you today is for you to figure out, what of the things that we talked about do you need to improve on in your calls? What do you need to change in your prospecting that would net you more appointments? Because if you will make that change, you're going to set more appointments. And as you set more appointments, obviously it just is going to lead to more money that you're going to make. So let me wrap this up where I started it. Don't seek success, seek to become a seek to become a person of value. I almost said it wrong there. So as you seek to become a person of value, you are going to see great success come to you. So thanks for being with me today. Let me know if you implement some of these things and see some good success come to your business through it. I would appreciate it. Love hearing about those things. Let's go ahead now and we will close it up with some closing affirmations.